Welcome back to Stepping Stones Real Estate. Today we're going to be testing your walkthrough skills. We're going to have 8 different pictures, and as each one goes through, you're going to have a few seconds to identify the water damage. If you can hit it, we'll find out if you're going to be a real estate mogul. Let's get into it. And here is your first picture. And so what you have here is just a droplet of water. Luckily this garage was really dusty, so immediately upon going in you could see that on the floor and it stood out. That was okay because I knew I was going to need to replace the roof. And here is your next picture. Take a second to take a look. Now looking at this picture, hope you saw it quick, because what you have here is you have a stud that is wet. All of these stains on this stud are because water's been getting through for a period of time, and you can see that it rained recently because that stud right there in the middle is still wet. Now let's have you take a shot at this next one. And that's all the time you get looking at this picture. And so what you're going to see is that the roof is caving in. I think you would have probably caught that as you walked into this unit. But the key part is that there's a skylight here. Skylights normally start to leak if they aren't well maintained, and so if you're going to redo this roof because it's already leaking, if you just replace that skylight, you can get rid of that problem for you in the future. And here's our next picture. And so now just looking at this picture real quick, you can see that the paint is starting to sag. If you're new to real estate, you might not know what's happening, but what happened is a lot of water actually was leaking into this unit, and it pulled all the paint down and started to stretch it right off the ceiling. When I actually punched a hole into this paint, water started coming out. And so I knew I had a very large roof leak somewhere. Now this one, take a second to look. Now looking at this picture, what jumps out to me are those brown streaks. And so those streaks are from water leaking down from the ceiling. And so you don't see a lot of damage in the ceiling itself, but you can start to see how it's turning brown in the crease, but then it runs all the way down. If this was lower on a cabinet, I might think they spilled something, but because where it's at, it makes me think that it's water damage from a leak. So take a minute and look at this picture. Some of the water damage is kind of hidden actually. So now looking at it, where you can see that jumps out to me are the brown stains on the drywall. This picture was taken after we scraped a lot of the ceiling off, but what they noticed is when they were scraping it that there was these stains on it, and so we knew that the roof was leaking somewhere and that was going to be repaired. Now jumping into this next picture. So you had a little bit of time to look at it, and as you look at it, what you can see is that there's water stains all over the ground. It looks like a large pool of water was here, but also slightly hidden. If you just look along the steps, you can see that there's some vertical streaks coming down. So it makes me think that water was running down or dripping down at some point and then just pooled up on the ground. That's what made me think it was a water leak versus water coming in under the door. Now this picture is actually going to test you a little bit more, and so there's actually 2 major signs that you can see in this picture that I want you to try and figure out. And that's the time that you get. This is a walkthrough, so we're going to have to be quick. Now, what's going to jump out at me is when I first look at the floor, I can notice that there is a big stain on it. And so that stain likely is coming from a leak somewhere, which is going to just ruin those hardwood floors. You might be able to sand it out, but it's going to take some extra effort, and it may just be too costly from a labor standpoint. But then if I look at the ceiling, I can see that there's a patch job that was done that tells me that there was a leak there at some point as well, because that part of the roof had to get fixed. I can tell by looking at it because you can see where they redid all of the drywall mud, but they didn't blend it in very well, so it's still standing out. And so I'm going to give you just a few more seconds, and what I want you to think is for a little bonus item. When you walk into this room, if you weren't looking, what else could you tell that might give you a hint that there's water leaking somewhere? All right, do you got it? Well, when I walked into this room, I could actually start smelling mildew. And so that was from the water absorbing carpet and just holding on to it for a while. And so that was another hint to me that there's consistent water leaking into this unit. Well, that's all the pictures for today, so it's time to add it up and see how you did. If you got 3 or less, you would be rated as a handyman special. If you got 6 or less, then you have moved yourself up to contractor grade. But if you got 9 and that bonus, you were able to tell that by walking in you would smell all the mildew in there, then you are well on your way to being a real estate mogul. Thanks for tuning in to Stepping Stones Real Estate, and look forward to having you back next time.